Florence Villeminot, good morning.
Hi, Catherine.
First off, you've got yet more revelations for us from the phone tapping scandal involving the former president, Nicolas Sarkozy.
That's right. We haven't heard the end of this scandal yet. Just to remind you, over the weekend, it emerged that investigative judges had ordered that conversations between Nicolas Sarkozy and his lawyer, Thierry Herzog, be tapped into. Now, one of the key questions was just how much the current socialist government knew about this. Well, Le Canard Enchaîné, which is a satirical weekly, it's come out saying that the Interior Minister Manuel Valls and the Justice Minister Christiane Taubira were aware that this phone tapping was going on. They knew, says Le Canard Enchaîné this today. And so, according to a lot of people, if they knew, well, it's pretty obvious that the president, François Hollande, also knew. As you can imagine, the right wing is outraged about this and is calling it a state scandal.
They might be outraged, but it's all serving to sort of deteriorate Nicolas Sarkozy's chances of a political comeback, isn't it?
That's right. And Aujourd'hui en France points out that Nicolas Sarkozy is actually under investigation in another case of alleged illegal campaign funding, this time concerning France's richest woman, Liliane Bettencourt. Now, yesterday, there was a key ruling by a court to determine whether the agendas that he used when he was president could be used as evidence against him. And after this ruling, it emerged that that indeed can be used as evidence against him. So Le Parisien says this is another setback for Sarkozy that could, well, you really determine whether or not he'll be able to have a political comeback.
Amazing to see one person in the news so much for so many different stories, isn't it? And like you said yesterday, the right saying this could be a smear campaign. Of course, we don't know. We're going to move on to other political news. The right-wing Le Figaro newspaper, not concentrating on what's happening with Sarkozy, are they? They're looking at the left-wing government potentially reshuffling.
That's right. They're changing the subject here.
Yes, sounds like it.
As they'd probably like to. Now, rumors have been circulating that François Hollande is preparing a cabinet reshuffle for some time after the municipal elections, which are scheduled for the end of the month. Now, the key question is who's going to be part of this government? The current Prime Minister, Jean-Marc Ayrault, he's been pretty unpopular in recent months. But so this, what Le Figaro is saying today is actually quite surprising. They're saying that he could keep his job, that Hollande is actually thinking about extending Ayrault's job as Prime Minister. And according to Le Figaro, this has given him a serious boost in confidence.
Okay, well, we'll move on to some news about the French economy then.
That's right. Now, a lot of papers are focusing on this pledge that the government made to cut 50 billion euros in public spending between 2015 and 2017. L'Opinion, the pro-business paper, is wondering, well, how is the government going to do this? Hollande is concocting an austerity cocktail, according to L'Opinion today.
Doesn't sound very tasty.
It doesn't sound very tasty. What is in store here? Well, a lot of belt tightening, a lot of cutting across the board. And one sector in particular that could see a lot of cuts is the culture sector. Now, L'Humanité, which is the communist newspaper, is talking about that today. Now, according to L'Humanité, the government is actually two-faced because on the one hand, it's saying that culture will continue to be a priority for the government, and yet the budget that has been allocated for culture has been cut by 7% this year. So you can read there on the front page that the culture world is ready to resist. A lot of people are afraid it could cost them their jobs.
Yeah, a lot of people involved in the culture sector here in France. Well, tough times ahead, potentially, for some people. Other newspapers focusing on people who are doing rather well at the moment.
That's right. If you want to feel a little jealous, then you should head to Le Parisien today, which focuses on the Economic, Social and Environmental Council of France, saying they have golden jobs. You'll have to look at another version of Le Parisien. It's actually Aujourd'hui en France that's talking about that today. Now, this is a government body, so these are public sector jobs that we're talking about here with great salaries, great perks, great office hours, basically anything anybody would want. So if you want to feel jealous, go read Aujourd'hui en France today. Le Monde, meanwhile, is focusing on the former Prime Minister Dominique de Villepin, who's also pretty well off. You can read here that he received 100,000 euros for one day's work.
Now, there is no amount of work you could do in one day that's worth that.
I mean, wonder exactly what he did on that day.
Yeah,
now, this originally came out in the Telegraph, so the British paper. Now, remember that Dominique de Villepin, he was former prime minister, but he was also a former foreign minister. You might remember his impassioned speech at the UN in 2003. Now, according to the Telegraph and Le Monde today, their diplomatic sources say that de Villepin went back to work after 20 years off the job because he wanted to get his retirement benefit. So that's why he went back for 1 day. Now, they called the foreign ministry to try to get a comment. They didn't want to talk about it. But this article does point out that de Villepin and the president, François Hollande, well, they were classmates. So maybe that helped a little bit.
Goodness me, lots of revelations there. Thank you very much, Florence Villeneuve, with a look at all of the French papers. Back a bit later on with the international headlines. We're going to take a short break here on Live from Paris. Stay tuned for our special reports on ethnic violence in South Sudan. Don't go away.